So that means I installed the clutch, tightened it, and put all the studs in place. Because when I removed the gearbox, the nuts didn't come off with the studs, so now I screwed a nut onto each stud and it was rusty. So I chased the thread on the stud, chased the thread on the nut, screwed all the studs into place, put on the nuts, and now everything is ready for installing the gearbox. So ideally I should close the oil pan now, but as I remember, I don't have an intermediate gear for the oil pump. I just put the cover on for now to see what bolts I have. In general, I just temporarily put it in place for now, so we're waiting for the gear. The gear will probably only arrive in 2 days, so I have 2 days to work on something else. Then, when the gear arrives, I'll install it. I'll immediately install the hub on the crankshaft here, and then I'll close this cover right away. After that, all that's left for me is to close the oil pan and take care of a few other small things.
So what do I want to do now? Right now I want to turn the engine this way under the hoist and install the cylinder head.
So the cylinder head is ready. The head was repaired, but I wasn't the one who did it. The head was sent out to a third-party organization. Basically, we were considering whether to grind it on a surface grinder or not. We can see there are these pits here, corrosion, so we decided not to grind it and to leave everything as it is. These are the works that were done on the head. The guide bushings were replaced and all the seats were replaced as well. 12 pieces. I recommend replacing at least the exhaust valves because they show wear on the stem, and the valves are still the original ones. In general, we handed it over to the client and an outside organization, who handled everything from there. They already sent me the finished head, so now I cleaned it again, degreased it, blew it out with compressed air, and basically that's it. I checked everything. Now I'm taking out the gasket, hanging the head on the hoist, so I need to hook it from that side. So, I've prepared everything for installing the head. As mentioned, I turned the engine around under the hoist and installed the guides. Now I'll remove these clamps that are holding the sleeves. I'll blow everything out here, wipe it down with a rag, and then we'll start installing. The head is prepared, just like before. I've blown it out multiple times already. I hooked it several times like this, tightened the bolts through a large washer onto the chain. I also prepared the bolts, washed them, cleaned them, blew them out, and measured them. The gasket we're using is from the Erling set, so the set also includes inserts. As for the tightening torque, we tighten to 60 Newton meters, then go over it again at 60. The gasket is solid, the head is large, and we start from the middle. When we reach the outer bolts, the middle loosens a bit again, so we need to tighten to 60 once more. We have just a few middle bolts. They should give in, just need to tighten them a bit more, and then we tighten them fully. 1 turn to 90 degrees and 2 turns to 90 degrees. In conclusion, this is the tightening sequence we have. So we've installed the head and tightened it. Next, I'll work on the injectors. The injectors were repaired by the fuel specialists, so this is how they look now. My task now is to replace the rubber seals. As we can see, we have 6 of these packets in the kit, and each contains a full set of rubber seals for an injector. I'll replace the seals and then we'll install the injectors. Here I already have the retaining clips with bolts prepared and also the injector. This is the place where we insert the ball, this kind of ball, that's what it looks like. So, in this way, the plunger, let's say first the ball is inserted, then this plunger presses against the ball, and then the plunger itself presses against the adjustment screw. So I rejected 3 of these plungers. Well, apparently there's some wear here, maybe a problem with oil supply or just wear over time. 1, 2, and 3. Well, for comparison, this is what a good plunger looks like, and this is what a worn one looks like. So we've ordered 3 of these plungers from the company, and apparently they come with a ball included. And also the corresponding part, the adjustment screw which is on the rocker itself, will have 3 new ones as well. So now I'm installing the injectors, and then I'll be installing the rockers. Well, actually these jumpers all go on the valves. Here we also have these little barrels that go onto the adjustment screw, and with this barrel it presses against the rocker. I'm assembling it, the rocker, installing it, the rocker shaft, and then I continue installing the rest. I've installed the camshaft. We're keeping the old one, but a replacement will be there. Bearings as well. The camshaft beds are already on the shelf, washed and cleaned. So right now I'm working on the top part. There's the rocker arm, injectors, and then I still need to assemble the compressor. Today I definitely need to replace the pump, the water pump, and install a new one. I still have some unwashed parts, including the intake manifold. The hydraulic coupling will also be replaced. In general, there's still a lot of work to do. Now I'll finish all this and get back to washing again until the end of the day. Until the evening I'll be busy with washing. That's it, that's the work. Let's go. I installed the injectors and tightened them. I also installed bridges on the valves. For the intake valve, you use a bridge with a pad, while for the exhaust valve, you use a bridge with plates. So later on, we might still have to adjust these screws, but we'll get to the adjustment part. So next I'll be installing the camshaft. We're keeping the old camshaft. I washed it, blew it out, inspected it, It's actually in excellent condition. That is, there are no issues with the camshaft. There are no issues. So as we can see, there are a lot of marks here. I'll also explain later what all of this is for. So each valve is adjusted according to its own mark. Well, in general, the camshaft system here is quite complex. So the camshaft has its own main bearings. This part is turned towards the head, and this ends up being the cover. And also, these beds are designed to have inserts. Here we have a set of standard inserts. Now we'll take them out and install them. We can also see how many bolts there are here. Some of the bolts are long, some are short, and some bolts are screwed directly into the bed itself. Here we can see there's threading. Some of the bolts go all the way through the bed and also through the rocker shaft. The rocker shaft is mounted onto these guides. I still have it for now. It's not ready yet. I need to replace the adjustment screws and do more work on it. Also, there are these studs. Here's a stud, and on the other side there's also a thread. These studs are attached, I think, to this side of the head like this. And the valve cover is attached to this stud, and these studs also hold it in place. The camshaft itself, I think, is on this side, and then the camshaft cover is also screwed onto them. So the camshaft system on this engine is very advanced, complicated, and complex. We also have these plates. They are attached to the rocker arm shaft, and they are installed after the rocker arm shaft. I've laid everything out on the table. Now we'll determine what is what, how it fits together, and in what order. Well, I understand that if I only worked with these engines, this would already be automatic for me. But since this is my first engine of this kind, so for me, not everything here is that simple and clear yet. Well, it's all minor stuff. We'll figure it out now. Well, of course, each cap is marked, meaning the bed itself and the cap itself are marked, so you can't really mix them up here. And accordingly, it can only be installed in one position along the guides. That is, you can't put it like this either. It only installs this way. So we see that there are no oil supply holes in the insert itself. Here we have an oil channel in the cap itself, and the insert has a notch. That is, the oil gets in specifically through this notch. And it's clear that this notch is present on every insert, so it doesn't matter which insert or where you install it. It turns out that the first insert comes with thrust bearings, with rings thrust. The longitudinal movement ring has a unique insert in the first main journal, while the others have identical inserts. I've hand tightened it. For now I have 2 bearing caps attached to the block, and here I've hand tightened it on 2 bolts. Now I'm going to remove that big intermediate gear, set the timing marks. I've roughly lined up the mark as it should be, but first I need to install the front cover, and then we'll check everything according to it. We align the mark with the flywheel. Basically, this is where the timing marks are set. The flywheel is set to 0 and the camshaft is also set, let's say, to 0. Top dead center, that's it. Other gears installed arbitrarily. So I've installed the camshaft and tightened it, but only on the lower bolts for now. Here it's attached together with the rocker arm shaft, so I've tightened it, preliminarily adjusted the gear just for now. Later, when I have the rocker arm shaft fully installed and tightened, and the valves adjusted, I'll check the clearance adjustment again. And then, after that, I'll be unscrewing these bolts a couple at a time, putting them on thread locker, and then tightening them. So I cleaned the rocker arms from oil as much as possible. This is the dirtiest engine I've ever seen in my career. I've never seen deposits like these before. I washed and blew them out multiple times, then sorted them into groups of 3 rocker arms each. Here I took the old rubber seals from the injectors, just pulled them off to keep everything grouped together. I've already installed these caps, applied assembly paste there, put them in place, snapped them on. I've also replaced 3 adjustment screws that go to the drive in general, and the injector that pushes for us. I want to show you how it looks, how it got eaten away. This is what it turns out like. Here we have cylinders 6, 4 and 3. We have new adjustment screws installed, and accordingly I've also marked 6, 4 and 3 on the injectors. Here I will be installing these new pushers. Right now I'm installing this pusher on the injector, then I'll install the rest. Oh, the rocker arm. Now we proceed to the adjustment. The intake valve will be adjusted, the injector will be retightened, and the exhaust valve will be adjusted, the exhaust valve. For the hydraulic lifter in the mining system. Brakes, that's why. Many things are not inside. Now everything, I'll tell you. But before we install the rocker arms, we need to adjust these bridges, that is, all the adjustment screws. I loosen it, probably unscrew the lock nut, unscrew the adjustment screw, and basically this way we press this bridge all the way down, tightening the screw until we have contact, 2 valves, and it turns out after contact we literally turn one face. And the lock nut, we do everything like that, but this is our crossbar. This crossbar moves along the guide, so if there is any misalignment, the guide will rub on one side, but also, well, and possibly it could break there, or there will be wear, chips will appear, and so on. So this is also an important point. This is definitely necessary because after the repair, the head had the seat and bushings replaced, among other things. The valves might have been mixed up in some places, so I adjust the bridges, then install the rocker arms, and then we proceed to the adjustment. The intake valve process is straightforward. Loosen the lock nut with the screw, adjust the gap, and tighten the lock nut. The injector process is also clear. Loosen it as much as possible, make contact, and then turn it to apply tension. That's 80 degrees. You can do 180, 240, but as I understand it, 180 is quite enough. Well, you can do a little more, like 190. Now, regarding the adjustment of the exhaust valve, things are a bit more complicated here. Everything is adjusted with these plates. You can see the size on the plates. 200, right? Well, that's 2 millimeters. Here, for example, 215 means 2 millimeters and 15 hundredths. So the size is in hundredths. 2 millimeters, 15 hundredths. I don't know. I'll see now. Somehow I'll manage to get everything done. When everything is installed in place, I'll start adjusting, recording, checking, and either swapping out some plates in certain spots, or we'll order new plates of a different size. In general, right now we're going to deal with all of this. So, we're swapping the rockers, and the saying came to mind, if a person is an idiot, it's for a long time. I don't know why I suddenly remembered that. I swapped the rockers, but that was incorrect. I'm readjusting them after installation. So, while adjusting, I noticed something here, it turns out, on two of them. That means I need to adjust the exhaust valve on the second cylinder. So, I took the measurements, the 26 gauge fits, that's within the norm. The 16 should also fit, and we can see this kind of gap. So, what did I subscribe to? What do I need? Here I need to increase the plate thickness by 1 millimeter. And also, for example, on this valve I have 0.00858267716 inches. I need a 16 plate. The plate thickness needs to be increased by 0.007874 inches. Here it's 205. The plate needs to be made thicker by 0.0177 inches. So these two valves are already adjusted, or rather the valve and the injector. These are also adjusted, the valve and the injector. Next, I turn the engine clockwise to the next mark. We see there I have a 6. That is, I should. When I get this number 6, the mark will come out right here. Between these two marks, I can adjust the valve of this cylinder, or rather the intake valve of this cylinder, and the injector of this cylinder. But now, using these two as an example of this cylinder, I'll show how the adjustment is done. First, we turn it, align the marks. This means it's the 6th cylinder. First, we adjust the injector. For this, we need to loosen the adjustment screw, unscrew the lock nut, and then tighten it. Here it has stopped. That is, we can feel it easily. Then it hits the stop, and after this stop, we turn it 180 degrees, maybe just a little more. That's all. The preload, the injector is set. Now we just tighten the lock nut and the injector is adjusted. The same goes for the valve basically. Nothing complicated, we unscrew it. Lock nut. We take a 0.007874 inches feeler gauge, insert it between this bridge and the pad, tighten it. There, we've tightened it. Then we loosen it just a little so that the feeler gauge moves with a slight resistance. That's it, and we check it. That's all. So it turns out the valve and injector are adjusted. Then I keep turning the engine to the next mark, and for me that will be the 4th one. So the exhaust valve on the 4th cylinder, I turned it to the next mark, and at this mark we can adjust the exhaust valve on the 4th cylinder on 4. This is the gap I selected with the feeler gauges. It turns out 0.85 plus 0.65, that's 1.5, and then another 0.55, that's what we get. 205 is a bit tight, but basically is normal. We see 205, it goes through a bit tight, so we write down 205, and we should have 1.6, so that means plus 0.45 millimeters. I don't know, I'll check now what plates I have on all the valves. That is, not a single valve I have. I haven't gotten away without adjustment yet. That is, I thought maybe it would work out so that I wouldn't need to adjust. It looks like all the valves need to be adjusted, all the valves need thicker plates. So, I'll see if I can at least do half of the valves using the plates I have available to pick them out. For the remaining valves, we'll place an order since we already know which ones we need, what sizes are needed. We'll place the order and we'll have to wait until these plates arrive. Well, then I turn it to the next mark. There's a 2 there, which means on the second cylinder I adjust the injector and the intake valve again, and so on. Next, I'll assemble the compressor, which I took apart, checked for necessary parts, and cleaned. We can see here that the cylinders are not removable. There are some small scratches and longitudinal scuffs on the cylinders. I think they'll still work. The scratches aren't critical, because otherwise you'd have to either buy a new compressor assembly or put it back together as is. So what we need to replace is the repair kit. It's clear here are all the gaskets, valves, and so on. And we also need to replace the pistons. That is, they come as a set with rings. This is the type of piston you receive. Piston, pins, circlips, piston rings. The rest, crankshaft, connecting rods, timing gear, stays the same. That's it. So now I'm working on repairing the compressor. I'll be assembling the compressor without the chamber. Well, because already I want to assemble it faster. Everything has already taken too long. The client is also in a hurry. Soon the next one will arrive. The next machine is already in line. I'm further assembling the compressor, but still need to move the pump in place. I still need to wash the air manifold. I also have a pile of parts over there that haven't been washed yet, the air manifold, and there's a cover for the heat exchanger. On the table there are various types of pipes. In general, there's still a lot of cleaning to do, and still a lot of work left. I don't know. It seemed like I was about to finish everything soon, but I think I'll be dealing with all this for another week. So they brought me the intermediate gear. They brought it, the axle is already here. I've installed it and tightened it. I also adjusted this gear again, unscrewed 2 bolts each and put them on thread locker. Well, in pairs basically, so it wouldn't shift on me. I put it on thread locker and tightened it. I also checked the tightness of this gear. So now I want to show that the oil pump, as we can see, has some play. Then the intermediate bushing of the oil pump also has play, and this intermediate bushing also has play. So now this one, the one I just adjusted. So I trimmed the old probe so that it could be inserted. So now let's see, if I insert it here, it goes in a bit tightly. That is, we can see there's no play here anymore. We still have play here and in this spot. I don't know how well you can see it on camera, but in general, as far as the timing gaps go, everything is fine for me. I double checked everything again. Now I'll set the marks on the flywheel once more, open the inspection window there, here on the camshaft, and check again where my mark lines up. So as for the valves, they're adjusted. I already have 3 valves, this one here. Today the 0 plate arrived, and not the 265. So I installed the 265 and the 215, and I got 48. Well, not this valve right now. I adjusted this one last time, and I also adjusted this one. So it turns out I still need 3 plates, so I'll have to wait a couple more days. They ordered about 10 pieces at once, and out of those 10, I'll pick the sizes I need. The rest will return. So what should I do now? Right now I'm closing this front cover. Actually, first I installed the counterweight on the crankshaft. Well, actually, not even the counterweight first. First I installed the hub on the crankshaft, I heat it up, install the hub, then I screw on this counterweight, then I screw in the central bolt that holds everything together, the hub, then I close this front cover, and after that I guess I close this other small cover we have here. I also checked online how to install it because it goes on a rubber gasket. Basically, there are these oval holes there, you need to screw it into the oval hole, then tighten it from one side and align it by the head. Well, that's it. Basically, there are also some nuances. We'll get to that in a moment. So today I want to install the hub, the counterweight, close this front cover, and close the oil pan. Well, and maybe even put the engine into working position already. So I installed the oil pan, did it without the camera. Yesterday evening I struggled a bit with this oil pan, so I decided not to include all of that and just skip over the details here. So I'll just say one thing, the gasket here is very inconvenient, the installation system is really awkward. Specifically the gasket itself, it fits onto the oil pan and then these aluminum rails are installed on top of the gasket. Well, I don't know who came up with this, who designed something like this, it's a wonder. I've never seen anything like this before and I hope I never do again. Alright, the tray is already installed, now I'll go ahead and install this front crossbar or whatever you want to call it. Well, basically it's the mount that attaches the engine to the cushion. Here I'll put the plug in, I'll wash it now, then I'll install the pump. Basically I'm starting to install some of the attachments here. And also I've already received the plates for adjusting the valves. Now maybe I'll close the air manifold here first, then I'll adjust the valves. In general I'm getting ready as I go, now I'll see exactly what it's best for me to do right now. So next I'm closing the upper front cover. I've washed it, cleaned it, blew it out, and I've replaced the gasket here. This is the kind of gasket we use, it's a rubber one. And what's the special feature when installing this cover? Basically we need to align this upper part with the head so that the valve cover fits properly. And we need to somehow press or squeeze this gasket in. So we turn the cover over and see that we have two oval holes. 1, 2. So we put the cover onto these two bolts, well we basically tighten it and then we use mounting tools to press each side, aligning it to the level of the head. So that's a particular feature. Well, what can I say? This is called just like that. Of course the engine is interesting. There are many solutions here that I have never seen in all my practice. There are a lot of interesting solutions of course, but also a lot of really deep solutions. For example, the way the oil pan is mounted, these very same rubber parts and so on. So it means that for some time I was working without the camera. In a couple of words I'll tell you what was done. So I installed the intake manifold and at the same time and decided to install all the wiring. I installed the control unit, laid out the wires, had to wrap the injector wiring with electrical tape because the insulation was damaged in some places and there were exposed wires. I connected everything, tightened it all up and also already adjusted the valves. Here you can see, it turned out, I indicated which ones, what thickness of washers. 4,648, 475, 47. Here on the second cylinder, for some reason 525 on the first 48. You double check the valve adjustment by turning the engine according to the marks and inspecting both the intake and exhaust valves. I'm all done too. You can put on the valve cover, but I still need to screw in the studs for the valve cover here. And basically that's it. My valve cover is also ready. I washed it more than once, probably even more than 10 times. I also installed the power steering pump, installed the fuel pump, laid out the fuel hoses, and installed the filter housing. I've practically assembled this side, you could say. I still need to install the temperature sensor here. Basically it's broken, so for now I just put it in loosely. I'll be painting, and then probably after painting the sensor will arrive. No, I'll have to remove this cover, take off the jumper there, and install the temperature sensor. But it won't take long. So now the engine, I'll put it in its working position and probably close the valve cover and start assembling from that side. I still need to install the heat exchanger, the cover, close up the compressor there. After the repair I have the pump, then the turbine is already prepared. After repairing the manifold I also already have the bolts painted, the manifold gaskets are ready. Overall there is still much work to be done. The shelves are all still occupied with items. Already without the camera. In general I installed everything, even the filter, already installed the slide, installed the valve cover, closed the feeler neck. Here's the breather. So I installed the compressor. After the repair the compressor showed what was done to it, what was replaced. I installed the pump. The pump itself is also new. This part here is being replaced. Generally the housing remains the same with the bearing and impeller. I also installed a filter. A coolant filter. By the way, this is the first engine where I see this. I installed 3 fuel filters, and I also installed this valve for the engine brake, which is great. I didn't do anything else with the engine brake. Well, just because I physically didn't have time. At first the customer didn't say that it was making a hissing noise there. In general I need to check something. Maybe it's this valve, maybe it's the damper itself. But then when the customer finally mentioned it, I just physically didn't have time to do all that. Because customers are always rushing, wanting everything faster and faster, but the amount of work that's been done just can't be completed any faster than I can physically do it. That's just how it is. So we didn't do anything with the engine brake and everything stayed as it was before. So what's my task now? Now I'm going to prepare the engine for painting. But as usual, I plug up somewhere here, whatever other working technological holes we have, for example here, here and so on. So I plug them up, paint the engine and wait for it to dry. And today I absolutely have to install the air manifold. It's already there, or rather the exhaust manifold together with the turbo is already there, lying on the shelf, prepared. I've already shown that I installed the turbo is after repair, everything is already painted with heat resistant special paint. So does it mean I absolutely have to install the manifold today? After painting I definitely need to install the new hydraulic clutch. I'll show that later as well. We'll replace the hydraulic clutch there. Also I need to install the belts, because once the hydraulic clutch with the fan is installed there's no way to replace the belts. Well, I don't know, somehow it's possible, but everything will be kind of problematic. So today I need to set it on the oil pan, because tomorrow morning it will already be installed on the car. So the person who is handling the installation, he probably plans to work with this engine all night. We only have a few days left to complete it. So let's say here we are to assemble it. Also the gearbox will be installed separately. First the engine will be installed in the car, and then the gearbox will be installed. That's it, so there won't be a lot of filming for us right now. I'm rapidly painting, preparing and moving on. Everything is mentioned. The engine is ready with the turbo and manifold installed, but there are still some minor things left to do. Here the air intake for the compressor is still unpainted. It's all minor things. I placed a plate here which I initially forgot to install. It was a struggle and required unscrewing some bolts. So I installed a new hydro coupling, tightened the guard, installed everything, the engine is ready for installation, and I put on new belts. The customer asked to remove the air conditioner, so we put on a shorter belt just from the pulley to the alternator. I tightened it here and basically everything is fine. I installed a new tension roller and also put this belt on the hydro coupling. Well, as I already said, we don't have an air conditioner here. There will be, so now, right here, the cost of repairing this engine will appear in the subtitles. If I don't forget, I'll clarify. So basically, I'm going to finish the video about repairing this engine. Next, we might, at least we should. I'll try to film footage of starting this engine already in the car, or at the very least, I'll try to film the engine in working condition when it's installed in the car and when it's started, to show how it runs. That's it for this video. Thanks for watching and good luck to all. Bye. So now the engine has warmed up, we can see the oil temperature, it's 81 degrees, the pressure is showing, but it's less than 4. That's somewhere around 3. It's hard to tell here, we don't have a scale, but in general it's about 3. That's At idle, as we can see, idle is 550 revolutions per minute and the needle is somewhere around 3. The engine temperature is already above 80. The oil temperature is 81 degrees. Well, that's basically it.